FBI. You have a federal warrant for this address. Keep your hands up and follow orders. This is the FBI. We have a warrant for this.
They handcuffed me and my wife out here. They wanted me to sit on the curb while they were carrying this out, something that I refused to do. They wanted my wife to sit on the curb out here, that she refused to do.
As I was coming out, this big old drone met me.
The only revolutionary organization that's done something here on the ground practically for African people is the one that's come under attack. Institution that offers a community radio station, a newspaper, a commercial kitchen, an Aquaba Hall rental space, and community office for our organizers. That was the building that has come under attack.
You need a breach? What do you need?
Need one.
I don't know.
Let's hold that, let money. Don't take it.
We will build a movement of white people that says hands off the Uhuru movement.
They see in the African People's Socialist Party a vanguard for the struggle for the liberation of our people. They see that because not just what we do here in the United States, but because we had the temerity to do like Garvey, to do like Malcolm X, and take the struggle of black people around the world.
Uhuru, Uhuru comrades, Uhuru to everybody who has joined us here on today. My name is Mwezi Odom, and I am the chairperson of the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa Counter-Offensive. And I want to appreciate everybody who is here joining us on Zoom, those of us who are joining us as well on YouTube and on the Hands Off Uhuru Facebook page. So if you are not linked to those pages, make sure that you go ahead right now and get in touch with us on all the sites, because we are very excited about today's webinar and to continue to deepen the counteroffensive. And as today's title and today's webinar is called To Build the Anti-Colonial Free Speech Sanctuary Movement. We say stop police and FBI collusion that attacks the people. And today we are going to focus on an issue that we all need to continue to be aware of, all in the context of colonialism, because we are understanding what is the primary contradiction and the one thing that has caused suffering for anybody who is in existence on this earth must understand that this started years ago with the attack on Africa. And thus, here we are today to continue to build that and defend anybody who has come under the brunt of colonialism and the ruling class. So I want to just appreciate everybody for being on today. I also have with me one of the Uhuru 3, Penny Hess, who will be joining us, joining me a little bit later on in the program to help with today's webinar, as well as members of the Leonard Peltier Ad Hoc Committee, Jennifer Jones, as well as Paulette Dautier, who we will be introducing a little bit later on, and as well as Chairman Omali Yeshitela, and the People's Alderman, Jesse Todd, who will be here to talk with us and take us through the Sanctuary City resolution. So comrades, I'm gonna go ahead and jump right in, and I want to, again, thank everybody for coming. Again, I put out the call to please share widely with your base. You can tell people to go to handsoffuhuru.org/events, and this is where they can follow today's program. Uhuru. So as you know, we are calling on everybody to join the counteroffensive for Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa. You can do this by going to our website and staying connected and signing the petition, which is still circulating on handsoffuhuru.org/petition. We have chat moderators that will put all that information in there for you. But comrades, you know, in the context of what we are talking about, we do want to just take a moment to recognize and to mention the Jacksonville murders, which just happened, you know, just a day ago, where a white gunman, you know, came in and killed Black people in Jacksonville at the Dollar's Tree, and, you know, whatever it was, African people died. This continues to be the attack on African people, killing Angela, who was age 52, as well as Anult and Gerald. And you see here, this is the family of one of the victims of this, you know, brutal murder and, you know, massacre that, you know, took place in Jacksonville, Florida. And we want to continue to, you know, just salute the Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who has fought for and fought against, you know, colonial violence, fought for power over our own lives, for community control. And this attack in Jacksonville was another attack on the African community, which is why we say that it is so necessary that we build these sanctuary cities in the process of getting free. So again, I want to salute Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who has brought us here today to defend the rights to free speech and to defend the struggle for liberation for all people and the African working class. So we have a goal today, comrades. As you know, these webinars are a way for us to raise resources for the legal defense, because we have a lot of money to raise, and we have raised a lot of money only by the support of the people. So this $2,000 goal, which is our goal for today, will go towards building the legal defense that we are going to take on, because as many of you who have been following the case, we are expecting trial in 2024, and we need to come guns blazing, you know, with the power of the people. So please, comrades, go ahead and remember to go to handsoffuhuru.org/donate. If you have donated and you're saying, hey, I need people in my family and my friends, share that link with them, tell them to go to handsoffuhuru.org to donate. And if you want to make a pledge today, you can announce how much you have pledged in the chat. Thank you, comrades. And again, comrades, just want to thank everybody for their support. We want to thank our supporters as well, who have supported this campaign. Those of you who you see here, and those who are there are too many to name. And part of where we are building in terms of what it means to be a supporter of the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa counteroffensive, the fight to defend the leadership of the African working class, the African People's Socialist Party. The Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa developed and founded this coalition on July 8th, the Fight Back Coalition, which is comprised of over 40 organizations who have united with taking this fight to the White House on November 4th, bringing all of our demands, all of our issues under the banner of this is an anti-colonial free speech movement. So if you have more questions, or you want to learn more about how to join the coalition, or how to just see what we're doing and how you're going to get to November 4th, go to handsoffuhuru.org/coalition. Again, this is just another example of the growing support from organizations and individuals across the political spectrum, because we understand, if we can understand that we have one common enemy, then we need to unite, comrades, and now is the time. Other things that have been happening in this throughout this counteroffensive is that we have many of you who were following on July 17th, the motion to dismiss was submitted by Attorney Goodman, who was one of the Uhuru 3 attorneys, and the prosecution wrote back and we responded. And you can find all of this on handsoffuhuru.org/motion to dismiss. I think that this is a really important time for us to, look at this as a very clear political document that was written by Attorney Goodman and the Uhuru movement's response. So if you want to follow that, go to handsoffuhuru.org/motion to dismiss. And I want to salute the Uhuru legal team for their, work in this fight back. Handsoffuhuru.org is the place to go for all information about the campaign. You can volunteer, again, sign the petition. We want everybody to use this as your main go-to place. So save this, save this and share this everywhere you can as well. And what we will be talking about later on today is building for November 4th. As we said, we are going to the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa Fight Back Coalition is joining the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations for their 15th annual march on the White House. This is taking place November 4th, and we are co-sponsoring the Black is Back March and bringing the Hands Off Coalition and our bases with us. So we'll find out more about that in today and a later meeting in September, which will put it out to the world and get us mobilizing. So comrades, as we build this anti-colonial free speech movement, we say everybody must fight back. We must defend all of the institutions and the organizations that have been built to uplift and to revert the oppression on the African working class, to bring back economic and political power in the hands of the workers. And so we want to say we are not retreating, we are building. And this was supposed to be a slide just ahead, so I apologize, but I'm pretty sure somebody might have put in the chat already. I'm going to be there on November 4th. So if that's you and you want to make the world know that you're going to be there on November 4th, go ahead and put it in the chat right now and tell us that you're going to be there on November 4th. So Uhuru comrades, we're going to move on with our program. And I, again, just really want to appreciate everybody for being on today's call. And I'm going to turn it over to Chairwoman Penny Hess, who many of you who don't know is one of the Uhuru Three, one of the members of the Uhuru movement. Penny Hess leads the African People's Solidarity Committee and was one of the three indicted, along with Chairman Omali Yeshitela and Chair Jesse Neville of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, all indicted by the US government for these bogus charges. So I'm very grateful to have Comrade Penny on with us tonight. She is on the ground in Aquaba Hall, and we're going to get you up and with us shortly. And what we're going to do is really start to move into the program as we talk about why we must free Leonard Peltier. And this is a very important opportunity for us to learn about the attack on the American Indian movement. This was, during the 1960s when we saw, similar attacks on the Black Panther Party and on other, and the historical attacks on anybody fighting for freedom. But what we must acknowledge, and that, we acknowledge that this land, right? That this land that we're standing on does not belong to, the people who own this land and who have the right to this land. The rightful owners are pushed out, have no access. And when we talk about economic and political power, we can see that in the fight for the indigenous, people and the traditional people of this land. And I just really want to acknowledge that this is an important time for us to know why it's so important to free Leonard Peltier, who we will be talking about more, who has spent over 40 years, almost 50 years in prison for defending his people during an attack by the colonial state at Wounded Knee and during this press conference. Two others were released. Leonard Peltier is still in prison, and we say we must free Leonard Peltier, and we look forward to getting into today's program. Okay, I see you on there, comrade, and you look ready. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Chairwoman Penny. Uhuru.
Thank you so much, Karen Malaysia. I really am excited by your opening presentation. Always very dynamic, and really appreciate that. And I'm just very honored to be able to be part of this event tonight, and that, I'm very, very honored to be part of the discussion with comrades who are fighting for the release of Leonard Peltier and the recognition that this land belongs to the indigenous people. It was stolen from them, and that this is a struggle against the colonial domination of African and indigenous people that we see inside the borders of the United States. So we're gonna start with a video where we go into the discussion with the comments that Joan Louisa will introduce in just a minute. And this video is actually from 6 or 7 years ago. It was an appeal to Obama to release Leonard Peltier, which of course he did not do. But let's go ahead with this video.
I am everyone who ever died without a voice, or a prayer, or a hope, or a chance.
Leonard Peltier is a Native American activist who's been in prison for 40 years, serving 2 consecutive life terms for a crime he maintains he did not commit. In 1977, he was convicted of killing 2 FBI agents, Ronald Williams and Jack Kohler, during a shootout on the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. Peltier was a member of the American Indian Movement, AIM, founded in 1968 during the Civil Rights Movement to advocate for the rights of Native Americans. The murders occurred at a time when AIM supporters and residents of Pine Ridge were being intimidated and killed, allegedly by paramilitaries connected to the government. A climate of fear and terror prevailed. After 2 AIM members were acquitted of the killings, witnesses were coerced by the FBI into saying they saw Peltier shoot the agents. Ballistics evidence that could have aided Leonard's defense was hidden from his lawyers.
The only thing I'm guilty of is struggling for my people. I didn't kill those agents.
It was not a fair trial. The conclusion reached by federal appeals judge Gerald Heaney, who stated, "The prosecution withheld evidence favorable to the defendant, and the FBI used improper tactics in extraditing Peltier and otherwise in investigating and trying Peltier's case."
I'll be an old man when I get out. If I get out.
Leonard Peltier has spent 40 years in federal penitentiaries, often in solitary confinement. He's now 71 years old and in rapidly declining health. There are concerns that he's not receiving adequate medical treatment and his condition could be fatal.
They're giving him the death penalty by leaving him in that type of an environment. The man needs medical treatment. He needs to have access to medical treatment. If they're not going to give medical treatment to him, they need to release him as soon as possible.
Amnesty International is calling on President Obama to grant Leonard Peltier clemency before it's too late. President Obama has a chance to rectify a case that has troubled many people for decades. It's an appeal supported by 7 of the president's fellow Nobel Peace Prize laureates, including the late Nelson Mandela, and dozens of religious and human rights leaders from the U.S. and around the world. Please join them and write President Obama. It's time to release Leonard Peltier.
Uhuru. And, you know, we have to look at that video in context of who we know we are dealing with, but we just wanted to really show that film to show that this is just to give some history that can give people a sneak peek into why this struggle is so important and why we must unite with the struggle to free Leonard Peltier, and why this speaks to the anti-colonial, character of this movement that we are building as it continues to, as the system continues to target and attack, the people. And so here we are, comrades, and I see we have Comrade Jennifer, who is on, and I'm going to take a moment to introduce yourself, as well as Comrade Paulette. And I want to welcome these 2 comrades from the Leonard Peltier Ad Hoc Committee, which is led by AIM leader, the American Indian Movement leader, longtime leader, David Hill, under the direction of Leonard Peltier himself. And we want to thank you, Paulette. I see you coming on as well. So Uhuru comrades, I'm going to begin by introducing, and then we're going to have, like we've discussed, just a discussion with some questions that can help the people better understand where we are in this fight back. So Jennifer Jones, we want to welcome you, a passionate advocate for social justice, civil rights lawyer for wellness and culture. Jennifer is a civil and human rights attorney and partner and director of litigation strategy and advocacy at O'Connor Jones, LLC, a people's law firm. Known for her fair but sharp litigation strategy, Jennifer works challenging, her work challenges the system of mass incarceration as, and it has resulted in binding affirmative law regarding the constitutional rights of prisoners in the United States. Jennifer litigates complex civil litigation cases involving employment discrimination, law enforcement, correctional officer misconduct, and prisoners' rights. And she is also a member of the National Lawyers Guild Mass Defense Committee. And we're so grateful to have you here with us, Comrade Jennifer. Uhuru. Uhuru. And we also have with us, joining us during this part of the program, is Paulette Peltier, who serves as the treasurer of the Leonard Peltier Ad Hoc Committee and has been involved in revolutionary politics since the mid-1960s. And she was a member of the Venceremos Brigade from Chicago in 1976 and an organizer of Prairie Fire Organizing Committee of the chapter of Los Angeles through 1976 to 69. And she became part of the Leonard Peltier Defense Committee in LA, and with Robert Robideau, late Robert Robideau, as well as organized the Los Angeles defense trial for Leonard Peltier after his escape from Lombok Federal Prison. So we want to appreciate you, Paulette, for being on with us in this capacity, and both of you who have been here, and now we can consolidate this really important discussion and fight back. So in the spirit of, African and Indigenous unity, I want to open up and begin today's discussion as we build. So, Chairwoman Penny Hess will also be joining us in this section as well, so she'll have some questions. So just in terms of some background, 1980, the battle at Wounded Knee, at Pine Ridge, after Sitting Bull was murdered, U.S. troops massacred at least 300 Lakota people. And 1973, this was a time of anti-colonial resistance, of the Black Power movement and the American Indian movement. And Pine Ridge, the Pine Ridge Lakota resistance, was, and its complicity to the tribal government. And the FBI and US government, their armed troops murdered over 67 people in what we've, learned to be called as the Reign of Terror. And all, where all traditional people, were murdered as, and I want to appreciate Paulette, you for even, distinguishing the traditional people versus the neo-colonial Indigenous people. And so just looking at how deep this struggle gets and how the state uses its ability to infiltrate and to separate the people. So I'm going to turn it over to Comrade Penny Hess, who's going to begin with our questions for today. So, but thank you, comrades. Uhuru.
Thank you, Chairman Moisey, and welcome to Jennifer and Paulette. And it's an honor to have you here, and the commitment that we all feel that Leonard Peltier must be free immediately, and that this land must be returned to Indigenous people. And we recognize that this land is the stolen land of the Indigenous people. The video shows Leonard Peltier saying that the people were trying to take their government back, the free Lakota Nation. And he said, the only thing I am guilty of is struggling for my people, which I think is almost an exact same quote from Chairman Omali Yeshitela in terms of this case. And I just wanted to ask you, Jennifer, I was going to ask you, what is the current status of Leonard Peltier's case as an Indigenous political prisoner?
Well, Uhuru, I just wanted to first and foremost thank the African People's Socialist Party, especially Chairman Yeshitela Odom and you, Ms. Hess. Leonard's case really occurs in what I call two phases. The first is which you all saw in the video just now, in the summation of which they characterize an unfair extradition and trial. But then there's a second phase, which is the one that we are in now, which is redress for Leonard, pretty much based on the computation of time that he has served, what we call old law prisoners, those who are sentenced before 1987, November of 1987, and his medical condition, which I know we will talk about shortly, and also the conditions of his confinement in terms of lockdown and access, not only to programs, medical care, and just his overall well-being. So those factors, in addition to a few things that remain in the first phase about the wrongful conviction, are what we are working on now.
Uhuru, thank you. Uhuru, well, I wanted to ask Paulette as well. I appreciate that. And we will talk a little bit more about the status of his health. And I wanted to ask Paulette about the role that the FBI played, because we're talking about Sanctuary City resolution tonight, and where that is a resolution that demands that local cities not allow their police departments to work with the federal government and FBI in an assault on African, Indigenous, or other people who are fighting to uplift their community. And I know that the role of the FBI in the murders of many, many people, of the Indigenous people at Pine Ridge Reservation in 1975 or in the 1970s overall. Could you talk a little bit about that, Paulette?
I could spend all night talking about that, Uhuru. But first, I would like to mention that the video said Leonard was a member. Leonard is still a member of the American Indian movement. His work within that is tied to ecology, it's tied to land back, and to the welfare of his people. And the other part is that people talk about tribes. Leonard is from the nation. He is from an Anishinaabe nation, Turtle Mountain, North Dakota. And so when you talked about that, when we talk about the traditionalists versus the neo-colonialists, we are talking about a nation of people that have been divided by US colonialism, and the struggle on the part of traditional people to win their land and their livelihood, their religion and culture back. So many of us call Leonard a prisoner of war because he is from a nation that had signed a treaty with the government. So not only is it a political prisoner, but we consider him a prisoner of war. And the FBI's role was brought to the reservations due to a lawsuit in the 1890s. I believe it was Yellowtail versus, I'll have to look it up exactly. But at that point in time, two Native people had engaged in a struggle, and the federal government went in and said, from this point on, the federal government will be in charge of the 10 major crimes, and they will be overseen by the FBI. So when you talk about the FBI, you're really talking about a federal police force that is used against Native people, against at their protest. You saw it in Standing Rock, and it was very clear the role of the FBI when they sent those two young men into an AIM encampment, and they opened fire, and the response was self-defense. And Bob Robidoux and Dino Butler were able to show that it was the FBI that was causing the problems, not the traditional people. The FBI would go into people's homes, they would no-knock. Some of the things that are happening now happened on the reservation under the powers of the FBI, saying that this was, in fact, a criminal act, and therefore we have the right to go in, harass, shoot, do whatever we want on Indigenous land. So they have become a colonial police force. Petty.
Uhuru. Thank you for that analysis.
Yeah,
Very true. Uhuru.
very helpful, very true. And thank you, Paulette, and thank you, Jennifer. And this question is directed to you, Jennifer. Just what can you say about the status of Leonard's health? Because this is, also very much a part of what you do as an attorney is, put attention to this. So, yeah. Uhuru.
Absolutely. So I want to highlight that even the UN has determined that there is absolutely no justifiable reason to continue to incarcerate Leonard, but yet he is sitting in a maximum security prison at USP Coleman 1, in which he suffers from diabetes, aortic aneurysm. He's had a stroke in his eye. We have done our own independent medical evaluations. And our doctor has stated that after his review of Leonard's medical records over the years, including its most current diagnosis, that USP Coleman 1, has neglected Leonard's medical care, and even if it tried its best to address it, that it would never ever be able to do so. So there are a lot of conditions, including neurological conditions too, in addition to the ones that I've mentioned that he suffers from. And it's critical that he be released even for his physical care. But I will say mentally, he is he's at it and he's doing well, alert and aware, and sense of solidarity. Thank you.
Yes, we send it too. And thank you for that, Jennifer. And just, I want to appreciate how you opened, that question around what has been deemed as inhumane, treatment by this, integral body as the UN, right? But still, Leonard is locked up, and we don't see the UN knocking down the doors to make that happen either. So I just wanted to make that point. But I do think that it's important to say that by their standards. And so what can people do to support the Leonard Peltier ad hoc committee and all the efforts to with the struggle to free Leonard Peltier? How can we support?
Well, I'll take part of it, and then Jennifer can give you some more information. So first of all, people can go to the website, which is freeleonardpeltiernow.org. And on that, there is a resource page which has information on writing to the president, to your congressperson, and how to do some organizing work. If you belong to a church or a group that has a social justice component, to bring Leonard's case to that. We have speakers that will go out and take part in activities in churches or at schools to put out the word that if Leonard's going to be freed, it's going to be by the people. And also on the website at the bottom of the first page, if you sign up, that's where you will be able to get a newsletter that we have been working on to send it out within the week. And on it, of course, we have get ready for November 4th, because Peltier's people, as we call ourselves, will be there. And our director will be there in traditional warrior garb with 4 horses and other young people with him to show the 4 directions, red, yellow, black, and white. And united, we have to come together, and under the leadership of Indigenous and Black politics, we will be able then to make the changes that are necessary to not only bring Leonard home, but to keep the chairman from becoming a Jericho political prisoner. I was talking to Penny the other day and I said, we really did not want her to become a political prisoner. It's too important that she remain outside organizing to bring all this work together. As you know, as we struggle, the maroon societies are very powerful, and that is the traditional indigenous people and the runaway slaves who came together and built societies. And some of them have some of the most powerful thinkers that are around. So people should check out the website, sign up for the newsletter, hit the donate button because we have to take care of Jennifer. She's going to be visiting Leonard in September for his birthday. And then we will have a birthday party in St. Pete. And I know we'll have a lovely comrade from African People's Socialist Party join us.
Yeah, right on. Paulette, yes, Paulette, before we turn it over to Jennifer, can you repeat the website one more time?
Sure.
Somebody asked that in the chat. Yes.
Okay, freeleonardpeltiernow.org. O-R-G.
Perfect.
And thank you so much for inviting us. This is always a refreshing political discussion and group to be part of. So uhuru.
Uhuru, Paulette, and we hope that you stay on with us. And it's been an honor to have you on. We're not done yet, so don't go anywhere. And this should be one of many discussions. So uhuru. Jennifer, anything you would like to say as well?
I think Paulette really covered it, but just to lift up the Peltier Street Initiative, we will be having a joint letter for organizations and individuals to sign on to support Leonard's release. And hopefully, while I hope Leonard is out before 2024, but in recognition of the joining of the Indigenous and African peoples, we plan to have a spot for Leonard in next year's Mardi Gras, and for all of the Indigenous nations there in Louisiana to join us. And so it's not about party, it's a political party for sure, and certainly about resistance and about lifting up Leonard's name. Thank you again, Uhuru.
Uhuru, wow. Thank you so much, comrades. And yes, and this is being on Facebook, YouTube, so you can come back to this video if you want to, hear any of those, activities and that were being shared on the YouTube page. So thank you so much, comrades. And Paulette, you gave the part that I was going to say, which was calling people for November 4th, because that's where we're all going to be as well. And so thank you for that, comrade. And before we switch, we turn it to our next section, I just want to briefly say where people are tuning in from. I think it's important to acknowledge those who were able to hear today's message. So I want to appreciate those who were tuning in from Battle Creek, Michigan, Silver Springs, Maryland, Los Angeles, California, Raleigh, North Carolina, Houston, Texas, St. Petersburg, Florida, St. Louis, Missouri, Gainesville, Florida, Oakland, California, Montreal, Canada, Portland, Oregon, Newark, New Jersey, Lexington, Kentucky, Largo, Florida, Marion County, Georgia, and Louisville, Kentucky. And I will add San Diego, California to the mix as well. So thank you. And and that number is continuing to grow. And I just want to read one comment. I also see Brooklyn, New York is in the house as well, that is being added. So there is one comment that was on, because we aren't able to take questions in today's program, since we're kind of tight, but we encourage people to continue to comment that. I want to appreciate Mark Friedman here wrote that this case deserves so much more support from labor and progressive groups. Mark is with the LA Hands Off Cuba Committee, and they are proud to have begun collaboration with the defense, and that they know that Cuba has been consistent supporter of Indigenous people's rights worldwide. Free Leonard Peltier and the U.S. blockade of Cuba. Uhuru, all power to the people. So just wanted to thank you for that comment as well.
I would like to just make a comment on Cuba. When Fidel was still alive, there was a young Indigenous man who was sent from the Peltier Committee at that time, and he presented Fidel with an eagle feather. And so we have built our unity, and many of us have gone there as venceremos to help bring about the end of the blockade. Uhuru.
Right on. Thank you, Paulette, for that. And that's just another example of why we have to make this fight back be the last and final one, to put imperialism and colonialism on its deathbed. So speaking of putting it on its deathbed, I want to acknowledge the people who are funding this fight back, because we have donations that are coming in. So please go to handsoffuhuru.org/donate if you haven't. And those of you that have, I want to say that we are inching towards our goal for today. I want to thank some of our donors, if we can just quickly. Well, I know we actually will have the appeal, so how about we thank everybody all at that point. But right now, comrades, we are at $785 raised in the meeting, which leaves us with $1,215 to go. And we are just moving on in our program. So I want to thank those who are giving, continue to give, comrades. And we're going to move on now into the section that is the other part of today's title and program, which is looking at the question of the sanctuary city, why we need sanctuary cities that are free from FBI assaults, and why it's important that we build this anti-colonial free speech movement. So thank you, Paulette and Jennifer. And now I would like to welcome up, there we go, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, Chairman of the African People's Socialist Party, and the People's Alderman Jesse Todd, who was an instrumental and central part of this fight back for this anti-colonial, for the sanctuary city fight back that was waged in St. Louis, that we're going to talk more about. So we're going to turn it over to you, Chairman, to just give us an overview, and then we're going to move into showing some other aspects of this fight back. So Uhuru, comrades.
Uhuru, I want to express appreciation to you, Comrade Mwezi, for the leadership that you provided for this committee and for what that you are providing at this moment. I also want to express my deepest, most profound appreciation to Comrades Jennifer and Paulette, and to the ad hoc committee to free Leonard, to defend Leonard Peltier. I think I cannot overstate the significance of this. I want to express my appreciation to you for bringing our party back into the relationship with Leonard Peltier. It's something that's been missing for a very, very long time. We are an organization that has always recognized the reality that we are on Indigenous land. And while people have said that the Indigenous people own this land, I think this concept of ownership is something that has been introduced into the discussion by the colonizers. I think we can rightfully say they were custodians of the land, but like this notion of somehow private ownership, I don't think was something that was generally recognized. We have had a history of unity. We recognize that when African people were snatched up against our will and brought onto this land that we occupy now, many of us occupy now, that the only friends that we had were the Indigenous people. And even though, like every relationship, there have been contradictions associated with it, the reality is, and we can say this with absolute certainty, that the Indigenous people were the constant only friends that we had. And in many instances, wars that were called Indian wars, or wars against the so-called Indian people, or wars to try and recapture African people who had escaped and joined with indigenous people throughout Florida, throughout Georgia, and various other places. And that trail of tears is littered with the bodies of Africans and indigenous people who were deeply united in the struggle against colonialism. I think it's important to recognize that. This is where the struggle has begun. I think that we have to look at the questions of law, because it's something that has been imposed on us at gunpoint. We know a lot of people like to say that the contradiction with this social system is one that exists at the point of production. But for those of us who are colonized, we recognize that the real contradiction was the point of the bayonet that herded us into these concentration camps that are called so-called Indian reservations, that herded us into these housing projects and prisons throughout this country. And the reality is that this was a law of the colonizer, and that anything that the colonized did was something that spoke to our own interests was illegal. There's no such thing as the colonizer providing laws that allow for the enslaved to be free. Freedom has always been illegal for indigenous people and for African people here in the United States. The fact is that while we recognize that we are looking at a colonial mode of production, that it has been the theft of the resources of our Africa, of the resources of this land, the occupation of this land by settlers who initiated a settler colony, and within which they also initiated a domestic colony of African people. This is the law that has been imposed on us, and that Leonard Peltier is fighting against at this very moment. It is an obscenity that here we have somebody whose life is being threatened, who has been endured so many years in prison for just trying to be free, for just being representative of a people whose aspirations, like any dignified people, is to be free. And this is what we're looking at. It's a horrible offense, and this is what makes this relationship so important that we have. The oppression and exploitation, the whole social system as it represents itself in the United States, stands on the twin pillars of stolen land and stolen labor. This is the foundation of this social system, and so we want to recognize that, and why this coalition is so important. This reemergence of this coalition. The fact is, I was there in the 1980s on Big Mountain with the Diné people when the U.S. government was threatening to come and try and take that land back or move the Diné people because they had discovered uranium on that land. This is the plight of all of us who live under colonial domination. That's the reality, and that's why it's significant for us to talk about a movement comprised an anti-colonial movement, free speech movement. So we want to talk about free speech and recognize that. But we also recognize that a fundamental contradiction that exists in this country and much of the world is the unwillingness and sometimes inability of the colonizer, whether they call themselves leftists, rightists, or anything like that, to recognize the historical significance of African and indigenous colonialism. Can anybody have an imagination that is agile enough to actually imagine the existence of what we know is called capitalism without the land that was taken from the indigenous people? Can anybody imagine capitalism without what has happened to what we now recognize as the Americas and the theft of the land of the people here? Can anybody imagine a capitalism that would come into existence without the enslavement of African people, the stolen labor, the resources that has come from Africa, African people, the genius of our peoples, etc.? It's not even imaginable. Yet the contradiction we've faced with for too long is an unwillingness for sectors of the colonizer population to recognize the legitimacy of the struggle of colonized peoples here within this country, within the United States. So This is what makes this such a magnificent opportunity for us to build this coalition. And we say, yes, Leonard Peltier must be free. And we say that without hesitation. And we also say that it's important for us to talk about this freedom as a part of a counteroffensive, that we're not just on the defensive. It's the colonizer that must be on the defensive. It's the colonizer that's experiencing an incredible crisis of the entire social system, similar in some ways to what happened in the 60s, in the sense that there are contending forces in the world challenging the hegemony of the traditional colonial powers like the United States, et cetera. This is part of what we're looking at. And we're looking at this as something that's occurring at a time where colonized people within this country, the indigenous people, and when I say indigenous, I don't mean just the people who they call Indians. I'm talking about the indigenous people that include Mexicans and other people now, where you see children stuck in cages in the United States. We're talking about a situation where African people on a daily basis, you can't even keep count of the number of Africans who are murdered either by the domestic military force that they call the police, or by just ordinary white citizens. This happens with greater regularity, and the deeper the crisis of the social system gets, the more we see the depth of these kinds of contradictions that we are looking at as Africans, as indigenous people, et cetera. So there's not a moment of peace for the indigenous people. There's not a moment of peace for colonized people here or anywhere around the world. Free Leonard Peltier and free him now. And so this is not just some simple defensive. That's one of the reasons we're raising this question of dealing with this sanctuary city resolution that we want to pass. I think some people may think, Comrade Jesse Todd, who is sitting here next to me, that we exaggerate when we talk about this is a colonial mode of production that we're looking at. People like to talk about class as it relates simply to a contest, a contradiction between the industrial ruling class, which is white, and industrial working class, meaning white. But the fact is that this profound contradiction that exists is one that has resulted in tremendous amount of wealth that functions as the foundation of the entire social system. Just this month, a report was released from the CARICOM, the Caribbean Committee, and it has determined that for slavery alone, by Portugal, by the United States, by France, by England, et cetera, and all of these colonial powers, just for that alone, in terms of reparations, we African people are owed $131 trillion just for that. It's greater than the entire domestic product of the entire world, which means that there's not enough money in the world to pay reparations just for what has happened to Africans. And then if you include the amount of value that's been stolen from the indigenous people. Look at the lands that we call America, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, all of this. You include this. What are you talking about in terms of resources? How in the hell can you even imagine a so-called capitalist system existing? And when you look at the contest that exists between the industrialized working class and the industrialized capitalist class, it all functions on the foundation of this colonial domination, colonial theft, colonial domination of our people. So this is the reality we're confronted with. And now we have this glorious opportunity, this unity, that we can move forward and with this committee that is designed as an anti-colonial free speech movement. And part of what we do is not simply act as somebody who are defendants, but we also initiate a counteroffensive. And so we put forth a resolution. Comrade Jesse Todd, who's sitting next to me as an alderperson here in St. Louis, we put forth a resolution that would prohibit that city governments, we are calling on city governments and activists like yourselves in every city where you are located throughout this country. When I say this country, I mean the United States, to go before your city governments, to go before your county and even state legislatures, and pursue them to adopt this resolution for a sanctuary city, sanctuary where the city and the county and the state will refuse to cooperate, work with the FBI, the Homeland Authority, any of these federal entities that function that will attack Africans and other people who are struggling for the rights and upliftment of the people. We don't just lay down, we fight back. And this is one way we can fight back. We raise this contradiction, take it to what I recognize as legitimate institutions like city councils and boards of alderpersons, like the state legislatures and things like this, and then push on them to pass this legislation. And this, what this does, among other things, it allows for the people to be made conscious of what it is that we are fighting for. It allows for the people to have an opportunity to have a position on the stance of their governments. It allows for governments, local and state and county governments to make their stance pro or con, whether they stand for the people and make it impossible for the FBI and these entities, whether they are on the reservations or whether they are in the so-called ghettos, whether they're in the barrios throughout this country, they cannot work in the dark. We now will allow them to function in the dark and make them have to defend what it is that they're doing to Africans and to oppressed people here in this country and much of the world. So November 4th is going to be an instance where this magnificent coalition will be able to march on the White House, along with the Black is Black Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations, which will be doing this for the 15th time. And for the first time, we will see all kinds of forces crossing the political and ideological spectrum, white people, Mexican people, Filipinos, Africans, all leftists, and all coming together to march in the White House this time in absolute unity and solidarity with colonized people under the leadership of the African Revolution, which has always been on the front line of forcing this struggle. We know that at the moment they began to attack the African Revolution, we know that coming up behind that is going to be attack on all the other peoples. The moment that we see them attacking the indigenous peoples, that we know that they're going to attack other peoples. And the only reason they've been able to get to people who they characterize as leftists and anti-imperialist forces otherwise is because the leftists and anti-imperialist forces for too long were too silent when they came at those of us who were colonized or who would not accept the definition of our experience and our struggle on our own terms, but would impose terms on us. This is changed. This is different. And I just want to say, as the head of the African People's Socialist Party, that they have miscalculated what they're doing at this moment, that we have living during a time where history has been compressed, where what used to take months or used to take years and sometimes decades to occur now is happening in a matter of weeks and months. And this is the reality that we're confronted with, that right now I lead an organization that has a membership of white people in 140 some odd cities in this country, who are standing for reparations, who are standing against genocide, who are standing up against colonialism of Africans and other peoples around the world. This is a magnificent change. This is not the situation that they had in the 1960s that most people use as a reference for repression, where they could scare the people with the threat of the Russians, as they're trying to do were our case, or scare the people because of the Black people and the assumption of the indigenous people taking over, and therefore all the white people are going to unite with them. That's not the case anymore. As I mentioned, there are 141 cities where this movement exists, and people are united around the struggle against colonial. White people are united under the leadership of the colonized people against colonialism, for reparations, against genocide, etc. So let's build for November 4th. Let's push these. Let's push this resolutions for sanctuary cities that would prohibit any government from cooperating with the feds, any local, county, state government for cooperating with the feds in any fashion at all to attack those of us who are doing work in defense of the colonized peoples here, the indigenous people, the African people, etc. Forward to November 4th, forward to the development of this anti-colonial free speech movement. We can win. We are winning. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Wow. Thank you, Chairman, for just, everything at the tip of the iceberg. You just hit everything below, because even the sanctuary city, is a part of a bigger struggle. And I just want to really appreciate you for taking us there. And, I'm going to take a moment to read the sanctuary city resolution, because, what you've laid out, Chairman, in terms of making this demand and making it impossible for them to one, lay a hand on the people, but also to do this in the dark. And the sanctuary city resolution, we want people to know, can be used anywhere in your cities. And, we have a template that we'd be happy to share with you if this is something that you want to put on the ground in your city. And so this is part of the work. And Alderman Jesse Todd was just, really powerful in this process. And I know we have the videos, but I'm going to take a moment to read the sanctuary city resolution right now. So thank you, Chairman, for that, for just deepening this reason why we're all here on today. So, and I'm going to just go ahead and begin. So this is the Dred Scott City of Refuge resolution for the city of St. Louis, or your city.
On the res too.
Yes, exactly. On the res, exactly, Chairman. So whereas Dred and Harriet Scott sought and were denied refuge from enslavement in the city of St. Louis, Missouri in 1846, and were told by the U.S. Supreme Court that they had no rights any white man had to respect. Whereas the cities of St. Louis, Missouri and St. Petersburg, Florida allowed their police departments to collaborate with the FBI to conduct unjust, violent military raids on the homes and offices of the African People's Socialist Party and Uhuru movement on July 29, 2022. Whereas historically, there are countless examples of city governments covertly and overtly collaborating with federal agencies to attack African community leaders, such as Fred Hampton, who was assassinated in Chicago, Illinois in 1969 by the FBI and Chicago police. Whereas the numerous examples of cities and state governments' complicity with the FBI and other militarized and federal forces include the attack on the Pine Ridge Lakota Reservation in the 1970s, where they killed at least 67 people and framed up the heroic political prisoner, Leonard Peltier, who remains unjustly locked up today. Where the Stop Cop City protester Tortuguita was murdered, and the movement attacked by the Atlanta police in cooperation with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation and the FBI, as the movement was defending the forest on stolen land of the Muskogee people land, which has been used as former convict leasing prison farm. The Stop Cop City movement is fighting to prevent the forest from being used as a police training ground against the African and oppressed communities. Whereas the frame-up of political prisoner Mumia Abu-Jamal continues, and we acknowledge the 11 African men, women, and children who were murdered at the Move home in 1985 by the firebombing by Philadelphia police in collaboration with the FBI, who provided the C4. Whereas Arab and Muslim people in the US have been targeted by the US, including through entrapments geared to lock them up for years, such as the cases of the Newburgh 4, the Holy Land 5, and the Docks and the Fox Dix 5, and others. Whereas students such as the Tampa 5 are facing prison sentences for demonstrating at the University of South Florida against Florida's banning of the study of Black history. Whereas the FBI continues to attack the courageous whistleblower Julian Assange, who exposed the US government's secret crimes to the public. Whereas activists and delegations returning from Cuba after participating in educational and solidarity activities face harassment by Homeland Security. Whereas the July 29th FBI raids on the Uhuru movement, military occupied the most impoverished neighborhoods of St. Louis and St. Petersburg, Florida, threatening Uhuru movement programs, fighting gentrification, and building economic and political power in the Black community, in the Black working class community. Whereas the African People's Socialist Party was targeted because it has relentlessly fought for the liberation of Africa and African people for the past 50 years. Whereas the FBI raids on the Uhuru movement posed a threat to the African community's hard-won democratic right to participate in elections in their own interest. Whereas African people have the right to petition to the United Nations to investigate the genocide Convention as it applies to the conditions of African people in the US and the quote unquote original sin of slavery and colonialism in this country. Whereas African people and all those in the US have the inalienable right to freedom of speech, association, and assembly, including public statements of dissent regarding the official position of the US on the Russia war or Russia-Ukraine war. Whereas millions of African people in the 1960s, struggling for basic human rights and economic and political power over their lives, faced the effects of COINTELPRO program of the FBI, carried out assassinations, political imprisonment, slander, and harm. Whereas Malcolm X, Fred Hampton, Martin Luther King, Marcus Garvey, along with W.E.B. Du Bois, James Baldwin, Aretha Franklin, Sam Cooke, and others were targeted, threatened, surveilled, and or assassinated by the FBI with the complicity of the local police departments. Whereas FBI files on the murder of activist Darren Seals following the police murder of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri in 2014 reveal that the local police worked with the FBI to target him and others, and many say to murder Seals. Therefore, be it resolved that the city of, in this case, St. Louis, be a sanctuary city in which the City of St. Louis Police Department and the city government will refuse to cooperate with the FBI and any federal agency to attack Black community organizers and others for charges stemming from work for the betterment and upliftment of their community. The City of St. Louis and your city will become a city of refuge for African people and others struggling for social justice in solidarity with sanctuary programs for Indigenous and Mexican people, immigrants, and others seeking a safe haven to uplift their communities. Therefore, this resolution repudiates the denial of refuge for Dred and Harriet Scott and the ongoing notion that Black people have no rights to which the white man is bound to respect.
Great.
So that is the Uhuru. So that is the Sanctuary City resolution that was put forth. And I'm going to now bring up Alderperson, the People's Alderman, Jesse Todd. And we have a video that we're going to show in just a moment here, but I just really want to salute you, Comrade Jesse, for being here, for the work that you continue to do. And, you know, last March, you were an alderman for the 18th Ward of St. Louis, and you introduced the Sanctuary City resolution that was put forth by the Hands Off Uhuru Committee, which in a sense was kind of like a test case, right? And here we are with this ongoing struggle to not put it out to the world. So Uhuru Comrade, we're going to watch a video. It's going to be pulled up in just a moment. We're going to take a look at the video recapping the Sanctuary City resolution, and we'll talk a little bit more about where we are today. Uhuru.
On July 29th, 2022, the FBI violently raided 7 homes and offices of the Uhuru movement, including the North St. Louis home of Chairman Omali Yeshitela. The Uhuru movement is responsible for creating numerous community programs through the Black Power Blueprint in North St. Louis. The City of St. Louis Police Department cooperated with the July 29th FBI raids on the chairman's house and 3 other properties. In January of 2023, 18th Ward Alderman Jesse Todd submitted to the Public Safety Committee the Dred Scott Sanctuary City Resolution, calling on the city to refuse to cooperate with the FBI and federal agencies in attacks on Black community organizers working to uplift the community.
The purpose of the Dred Scott resolution is to make the city of St. Louis a sanctuary city in which the St. Louis Police Department and city government will refuse to cooperate with the FBI and any other federal agency to attack Black community organizers and members for charges stemming from work for the betterment and uplifting of their community. So that's the purpose.
Some aldermen expressed their support for the programs of the Black Power Blueprint and called for a second hearing with the representative of the FBI and police department to hold them accountable.
For those members of this committee who are not close to that north side area, all the work that is being done there is extremely well done. I'd probably stop by, most especially during the summer months when there's a lot of activity almost every Saturday that there is something going on.
The chair of the committee called on the clerk to contact the FBI and police.
So what I would say is if he could reach out to them, and we are open to I'm open to having a public safety meeting based off of when they can make it.
Okay, I will so noted, and I'll give that to Clerk Kennedy to
But
schedule it when they're available.
A second hearing was held on February 8th, where 22 individuals and organizations testified in support of the resolution.
For the majority of my 81 years of life on this planet, I have fought here in the United States for the upliftment of African people from the ubiquitous horrors stemming from the original sin of U.S. domestic colonialism.
You can say the spirit of this body. See, sometimes that helps a lot. The spirit of this body is that you should not cooperate with people who are violating the human rights of people to live in peace and move about peacefully in their neighborhoods.
This city resolution is an opportunity for redemption, to take a step in making right the acts of oppression that have been committed against the Black community here in the city of St. Louis.
That same day, the chair of the Public Safety Committee lied and claimed it was Alderman Todd's responsibility to have called the FBI and police, something he wouldn't have had the power to do.
Okay, and then Alderman Todd, I believe at the last meeting, they asked that you would reach out to the police and FBI to have them come. Have you reached out to either one?
I understand about your role as chairman.
Right.
And my understanding from our last meeting was that you were it came up, and I don't want to call people's names because I don't want to get into personalities. It came up from some of the committed people that we needed to invite the police and the FBI. My understanding was you said you would get in touch with them.
No, I did not say that.
Well, I'm not going to, we had
It's a tape. Everybody can shake their head however they want it. It's a tape.
Although initially the committee had a quorum to vote, the majority of the aldermen dropped out before a vote was held, and even those who stayed were too cowardly to vote for it.
Okay, I believe that is all the speakers. Before I go through the committee, I want to do a quorum call because it seems like we keep dropping off and picking up. I don't even know if we still have a quorum.
Why were the aldermen complicit with the vicious FBI and police attacks on one of the few organizations creating community programs, something the city has never done? This is not over. New York City District 42 Councilman Charles Barron will sponsor this resolution in the New York City Council. Donate to fund the legal defense for Chairman Omali Yeshitela and others facing indictment and arrest by the FBI on bogus charges, a continuation of COINTELPRO. handsoffuhuru.org/donate.
Well, that is the recap, and here we are with Alderman Jesse Todd. So we're just going to jump right in, Alderman, and just wanted to say, first of all, why do you think the sanctuary city, resolutions are important for cities, and in this example, St. Louis, Missouri in particular? So thank you for being on, Uhuru.
And thank you, Uhuru, Comrade Uwezi, and power to the people and power to the African people and African nation. It's important because historically, in the first place, the FBI and all the rest of the law enforcement officers have participated in denying us our constitutional rights to freedom of speech and the right to associate with whomever we choose, and by passing a resolution, whereas the city council or the alder people will not, city council pass a resolution where the police and other law enforcement officers will not cooperate with the FBI when people are out organizing to uplift and make their community better, we will be able to organize without being harassed, without taking up our time defending ourselves, when what we're doing is actually within the law. We're improving the community. So it's important and that people don't get locked up for things that and also to make sure that people are not harassed by the FBI sometimes. Scaring people are going, starting whispering campaigns about to slander people or to put out misinformation on people who are doing excellent community work. And so it's very important that the city and other agencies don't cooperate with the FBI, because when people are uplifting and bettering their community, it is within our rights. And historically, the FBI has actually violated citizens' rights under the Constitution. That's why it's important.
Right on. Uhuru, Comrade Jesse, and I appreciate that, even how you opened up power to the people, because you've described this resolution as a form of dual power for the African community. So can you talk more about that?
Dual and contending power. What we're dealing with when we deal with dual and contending power, what the FBI is doing, for example, is they would like to maintain the status quo, meaning that they're complicit. And what I mean is they aren't doing anything but giving out misinformation about drugs, poverty, crime, getting involved in fighting to maintain the present conditions that exist. And whereas I would use an example just here in St. Louis, in the African community in North St. Louis, the Uhuru movement and the African People's Socialist Party and Solidarity committees are showing the people that that the conditions don't have to be the way they are. And so and when we say dual and contending power, our goal is to eliminate those conditions that are actually created by the system, the FBI and other people, the colonialists, more than anything else, and replace those conditions, gain control of the different institutions in our community, and then have the power to and resources to educate people and to show them that things can change, and have the power to make those changes. So that's what we are. That's where where we are in a power struggle over between the status quo and those who are working against the community, and the neo-colonialists that we are working on replacing those with people who have the best interests of the community at heart.
Right on.
Right on. Yeah. And I really appreciate that, because as we talk about dual and contending power, in the process of eliminating it, like you said, we are building this power, because where there doesn't exist a people's movement for protection of the city, or, community control of housing, of the police, we build it in the process of overturning the entire system that even has these entities and these, bodies of the state involved. So I just want to appreciate that, and just, say that is, as we've discussed, it was very courageous of you, Alderman Jesse Todd, for going before the board. And even though we did not win that time, essentially we see it as winning, because everything, any type of, this is a victory for the African working class, we have to say. But how do you see it in terms of building a movement demanding sanctuary, taking this out to the world, and how important was this in terms of where it can eventually go?
We can build a movement because, again, we have to look at things, at movements historically. First of all, we can take it out and educate people, and those who support it we want to educate them about what we're doing. Those who don't need to will have to be exposed. And then the people will know that they are not far the better for improving the community or the betterment of the community, that they actually are working against the community. So we can use it as a tool to, again, we can use it as a tool to make sure that our democratic rights are respected and that our time and resources are not taken up on bogus charges. The best example are the bogus charges that are being leveled against the Uhuru African People's Socialist Party, Uhuru movement, and the resources that that the FBI and other agencies try to drain. So it's a tool for educating. It's a tool to open up space so that we can use our democratic rights to organize, to better our community, and without being harassed, without being threatened, without being bullied. And so it's a tool to go out there and also to keep not only at this time out the Uhuru and the Solidarity Committee and the African People's Socialist Party, not only to protect to work with us, but historically there have been other groups, activists, progressive groups, labor movements, and other parties that have been attacked in the past, and laws have been leveled against them historically. So if once we win this victory, it will open up space for all of us, and then it will open and it will show. Once we had a space open up, it's a good example on the November 4th march on the White House. That space would be opened up for all the people that that in the past, many of them have been attacked, just like we've been attacked now, but they usually come after us. But if once they come after us, then they go after other, historically after other groups too. And so it's important that it be used to, again, to protect our democratic rights, to educate people, and to be on the offense.
Yes.
Instead of defending ourselves, because it's important. And so that's the reason.
May I speak to that just briefly also?
Yes, and thank you.
I know we're fighting for time. I want to
Yes.
express my appreciation. First of all, you mentioned the courage of Comrade Yeshitela, who, as the alderperson of the 18th Ward here in St. Louis, who he's become the people's alderperson because of his fierce defense of the rights of the people. Long before even he came into contact with the Uhuru movement. And we didn't show that part of the video, that hearing that where Yeshitela introduced this resolution to try to introduce it to the board, and the battle he had to endure just to try to get them to deal with it. But it was really a courageous battle. I also think that it's important for us to understand that the struggle we are talking about now, the resolutions that we're talking about, the free Leonard Peltier, the hands off Uhuru, the November 4th mobilization we're involved in, all of this is occurring within the presidential election season. And for the longest time, this government, and especially the Biden administration, that's been responsible for waging all kinds of terror, initiating prison projects that's responsible for a 500% increase in the number of African people who are locked up. The fact that 1 out of every 8 human beings on earth who's in prison is an African in this country. The Democratic Party and Biden, they haven't made any kind of proposal, anything that's for African people, for oppressed people. They do this symbolic stuff that makes a Native woman over the Department of the Interior, the entity that controls the Indigenous people. They make an African vice president. They've done symbolic stuff that's not changed anything about our conditions. And I think it's important. They felt like they could get away with this because we had no options. There was no alternative that the people could see, and that we were stuck either with the Democratic Party or with the terror that they projected would befall us if the Republicans or if Trump in this instance were elected. And I think that what we are involved in now, Comrade Yeshitela is talking about dual power, that we are, the Democratic Party is not going to put Leonard Peltier in this campaign. Biden is not going to have that as a part of his campaign platform. Biden is not going to have what we're talking about in terms of this resolutions that deals with the FBI and other entities attacking people, Africans and other people who are fighting for liberation. Biden is not going to be talking about freeing political prisoners, et cetera, and all of the things that happen to us, but we can. And what I'm saying is dual power means that we don't rely on the Democratic Party or Biden or any of those forces to put on their platform what they want to put as it relates to us. We put it on the platform. And that's what part of November 4th is about. That's part of this meeting is about, is winning people, the masses of people to take up these campaigns, take up these struggles and what have you, and let Biden and the Democratic Party know that there's no way in hell they're going to be able to take African people, the oppressed people, and so-called progressives, the vote for granted just because he's not Donald Trump. That's not going to be enough. He's going to have to say free Leonard Peltier. He's going to have to say drop the charges against the Uhuru 3. He's going to have to say that we are going to deal with the questions of reparations for African people. He's going to have to adopt more or less the demands that's coming from this anti-colonial free speech movement that we're building now, that's going to be expressing itself with a powerful presence in Washington, D.C. on November 4th.
Uhuru, Chairman. And yeah, this is just the beginning, and this is just a continuation rather of a struggle that is building, and just in the context of freeing Leonard Peltier and every political prisoner and every colonized person and national liberation struggle, they're going to have to say it. They're going to have to say it, or they're going to have to deny it. And that's a statement in itself. And so we have to put the pressure on them to be able to expose themselves, because we're already in the process of doing that. So I want to appreciate Alderman Jesse Todd for joining us in that section, and we know we're going to be hearing more about this fight back. And thank you, Chairman, for your feedback, for your analysis and for deepening this. And we're going to move right now into the appeal, because we are, again, this is a fundraiser. We want to encourage everybody to go to handsoffuhuru.org/donate. We have a goal tonight of raising $2,000 towards the overall goal of phase 1 for the legal defense, which is an overall goal of $277,500. And so as we continue to get there, we have a $2,000 commitment. This is everybody who was on Zoom, who was on YouTube, who was on Facebook, and who doesn't know about this campaign, because you just sent them the link and they're going to donate too. Get them onto this webinar, or tell them to go to handsoffuhuru.org. For this appeal, we have comrades Penny and Vice Chair of the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations, Lisa Davis, who is online, and Chairwoman Penny Hess, who is in Aquaba Hall. So comrades, I'm going to turn it over to you, and just want to salute everybody who has donated so far to get us to our current goal. And I'll leave it to you to tell us where we are. Uhuru, comrades.
Uhuru.
Uhuru.
Mwezi and Uhuru Lisa Davis. Uhuru, it's always great to have you on, and it's an honor to be on this program tonight. And I just want to say what a powerful and moving program this has been. And, the chairman was saying that history is compressed, or the way you said that, everything is moving forward so fast. And you also said that it's an obscenity that Leonard Peltier have been locked up for this long, locked up by the colonizers who stole this land and created the colonial conditions faced by African and Indigenous people. And, that system, that world has to go, and that can go through power in the hands of the African working class and power in the hands of the people. And before we go into, and I want to acknowledge all of the incredible donations, and Lisa and I are going to give a PowerPoint. I just want to salute some people that are on tonight. I want to salute Heinrich Booker from Germany, I know it's very late for you, just want to say Uhuru, Freiheit, I guess, and that, that Heinrich is facing indictment in Germany for taking a stand against the US NATO-backed war against Russia. So really want to salute you for being on tonight. Also, sorry, and I'm sorry, Lisa, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was just so captivated by what you were saying about the comrade who's currently on. I'm sorry to interrupt.
And just a couple more people. I want to salute Mark Friedman, who is just our friend, our comrade from Hands Off Cuba in Los Angeles. I've just been on every event. Really, really salute you, Mark, and all of the comrades from the Cuba solidarity work. And I want to salute Angelica from the Green Party of here in Missouri for being on and always being a friend of this movement, as well as Barry Bender, who is from the Green Party of New Jersey, who had to leave a little bit earlier, and many other comrades are on tonight. So I just wanted to say that. And we have a PowerPoint, but I just, Lisa, is it okay? Can we start by acknowledging people who have already given? Because
yes,
we have raised $975 so far. Really want to salute everybody who contributed. And Lisa, if it's okay, I'm just going to read some of the people who have pledged tonight. And even within the last day or so, we have Teresa, who donated $200. Kenneth, I believe, who raised $100 to Harka, and Anthony and Barry, and an anonymous person who totaled $460. We have $25 from you, Lisa.
Although that was for a previous.
That's for a previous, but that's okay. It's all going the same place. Right. And then I put in $50 tonight. Anybody who could match me, please go ahead and do that. And we have donations from Ruby, Janet, and Allison. This is not broken down, but the total, that brings our total to $735. And then Lisa Watson with $50, bringing us to $785. And we now have, okay, I'm just reading my text. That's why this is jumping up in an odd way, but we have $865 from new donations from Sayero, who's on. Really want to salute you, Sayero, Brendan, Carrie, Catherine, and Wendy. And Wendy, want to thank you and salute you for coordinating this, sending us these messages and computing this. So we are at 975. Oh, and Mark Friedman put in whatever, $10, that would be $985. And Becky put in also, so now our total is 1,005 with 995 to go. And we now have a total of 1,105, which includes Becky, Jesse, and Jennifer. And the chairman is putting in $50. Wow, Chairman Uhuru, that brings us now to 1,155. And that is, if somebody else could compute for me, Wendy, what is that total that leaves us? Because I can't do the math right now. And just really
right now, I can just say real quick where I see we're at, and I just put in another. I'm going to make my $50 donation to match yours, Penny, and if others want to match or break that up into others, go ahead and do that. But our total raise is 1,165, so 835 left to go. Uhuru.
Uhuru. You put in 50, that would be 1,205, I think. Anyway, I don't know. Go ahead, Lisa. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes. I had to release that.
$25, $26 from Alderman, the People's Alderman, Jesse Todd, here in St. Louis. So somebody else, I'm going to let them add this up. Thank you. Go ahead, Lisa.
Power to the people. Yes. Uhuru. You know what to do with them dead presidents. You know what to do with them. Make them work for the revolution. Yes.
Uhuru, yes.
And we appreciate we appreciate everybody who's here. We appreciate all the support, and we appreciate everything that you're able to contribute, because we know for so many of us, it comes through our sweat, our blood equity, so to speak. So we just want to say we really appreciate every contribution and in every way that everybody has shown their support.
Uhuru, yes. And so I'm getting a text that says we are at 1190. So that would mean about 810, I think, to go. But anyway, I don't trust my own app. I'm not that good. Okay, so let's just look through this this PowerPoint really quickly and just salute the handsoffuhuru.org. And just this powerful, this was from our day of action last May. Drop the charges against the Uhuru 3. The next slide. And yes, and so we are almost to the end of phase 1. We have many more phases to go in the fundraising, just with the outpouring of powerful support for the Hands Off Uhuru, the commitment that Chairman Omali Yeshitela will not be prosecuted, will not be successfully ever put into prison, that that African people will be free, and that we have the responsibility to force the state, to put the state on trial, to force the hands off Uhuru and drop the charges against Chairman Omali Yeshitela, which we recognize as the target of this vicious attack against the African liberation movement. And next slide. And your donations are part of the fight back that thousands of people have given. There are thousands of donations that have come in since the July 29th, 2022 raids, more than half of all the donations that have come in since the indictment in April 2023. So handsoffuhuru.org/donate. And your support has made a tremendous difference. And as you can see from this pie chart, that the legal fees are 93.6% of what the resources are spent on that we have. And we have only 2.2% is administrative expenses. Travel is 1.7%, promotional materials 2%, and event costs are 0.5%. So Uhuru, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Comrade Lisa.
Uhuru, and first of all, let me also just echo and say that I am so appreciative of highlighting Leonard Peltier and of becoming more connected with that struggle. And I'm just so appreciative to be connected with everybody in the room and doing all the work. It means so much to be a part of this movement. But as you can see, funds are still needed. Like, we need funds for legal expenses for the trial. That would cover expert witnesses, court transcripts, travel, research. Next slide, please. Legal funds are still needed we want to sue the FBI. Like I said, this is also about a counteroffensive. So we want to sue the FBI, the Department of Justice, the banks, and others who colluded to attack the people. And I just wanted to also bring up one thing really quickly, because Penny Hess and I were talking yesterday. One of the things that brought the chairman and the Uhuru movement to St. Louis was the unjust murder of Mike Brown by Darren Wilson, and Mike Brown's body laid in the street for 4 hours. But the Department of Justice under Obama, under the Democrats, found nothing wrong with what he did. But yet the Department of Justice is going after Omali Yeshitela and the Uhuru movement. So we surely want to put them on trial. Next slide, please. And also, funds are still needed for our campaign expenses, such as printing, banners, travel, administrative expenses. Next. Okay, you.
Yes, and I think that we've said it, but our goal is $2,000 tonight. And we just have so with donations, just trying to follow this, from Wendy Craig, Shlomo, and Reparations by Design, and a donation from Javon Tinsley, we are now totaling $1,240 with only 760 to go. Great work, everybody. Really appreciate this outpouring of support and the need for these resources so that, you know, that we can make sure that Chairman Omali Yeshitela, it continues to do the work that he leads in the struggle for the liberation of Africa and African people everywhere. So Lisa, turning it over.
Yeah, and look at some of the merchandise and things that we have. Give back, you know, make sure that you send your address, but all donors will receive a hands-off Chairman Omali Yeshitela button. I'm so glad for these buttons. I didn't even know that we had them, but we have these buttons. Next slide. And the book, The Verdict is in, Reparations Now, signed by Chairman Omali Yeshitela. And the first person to give $500 today will get a special give back. This wonderful book, and the chairman's going to be going on a book tour. I want to make sure I get the book when he comes to Newark, so I can also support the bookstore. But yes, The Verdict is in, Reparations Now, and this covers the first tribunal that was ever had on reparations in this country in 1982, I believe that was.
Yes, in Brooklyn, New York. It was powerful, and all the testimonies are in there. The chairman served as the people's advocate and lays out the true case to put the U.S. on trial for genocide and called then for reparations in the amount of $4.1 trillion in 1982 dollars for African people for stolen labor alone inside the U.S. Go ahead.
And this helped to popularize the issue of reparations, to get it out there in this country. The African People's Socialist Party, the chairman, they were on the forefront of doing that. And that was one of the things that this tribunal helped to do. And the next slide. Oh my gosh. I love these backpacks. I know I'm going to be getting one, but a special give back for today. If somebody donates $1,000, these beautiful Harriet Tubman book bags. Oh, I just love that.
All right. Yeah. So yes, thank you, Lisa. Just to say that you can become a sustainer as well. And you can go to handsoffuhuru.org/donate. And there's little different cards there on the site that you'll see, and you can become a monthly sustainer for as little as $5 a month or up to $50 a month. However, you can contribute. That is a powerful way to contribute to this dropping the charges against the Uhuru 3. And make your dollar march for you as well. The next slide, you may not be able to join every demonstration, but your money speaks for you. This is a way of being an activist, of standing for the right of African people and oppressed and colonized peoples to be free and liberated, and to fight for the liberation of African people, and for everyone to have the right to free speech and to stand against the war and all of the positions that people have a right to take in this country and in the world. So we now have a donation from Daniel that puts us at $1,275. We only have $735 to go. This is so powerful and really exciting. And we're going to close out this with drop the charges against you.
Drop the charges, and also make sure you get the t-shirt. If you don't have one, you get it in black, and you can get it in red, and also you can get hoodies. You know, wintertime is going to be coming. But yes, please drop the charges against the Uhuru 3. Reparations now, hands off Uhuru. And put me in for $25 for tonight. Uhuru.
Uhuru.
So that.
Yes. Go ahead.
At 1,200, at 1,300.
Yes.
And 10, I think.
All right. Well, and hopefully we can get another. We'll get another count in just a moment. But I just really want to appreciate and just join you, comrades Lisa and Penny, in just really appreciating the people. You know, this would not be possible without the people. And I just really want to acknowledge what you're saying. If you know that everybody's money spoke for themselves, and whether it's a dollar, whether it's a penny, whether it's being on these webinars to help spread the word, we really want to just appreciate everybody for making a contribution to the overall goal to put the state on trial. So
We have one more from Yindu.
hey,
All right. I know they're getting ready. I think he's in Florida. They're getting ready to have a big storm down there. And so that puts us at 1,285 with 715 to go.
Wonderful. Uhuru, well, let's keep that going. Even if we can make it during this, but if not, comrades, you know where to go, handsoffuhuru.org/donate. It's coming up to the end of the month, so money does look a little funny around this time of the month, but we will continue to make it happen. So thank you, comrades, for leading us through that appeal. I'm going to give a very brief appeal because we will speak more about why it's important to be on November 4th, but part of us funding this fight back is also preparing to mobilize. So I just want to appreciate everybody who was on tonight, because you are going to be called on to let us know that you plan to march on November 4th, march on the White House. So comrades, I'm gonna just show some things quickly on the, with the help of our Zoom engineer, rather, to show the Hands Off Uhuru website so you can know where you can find materials. The flyers are continuing to be updated. So you might see a slight variation of the flyer in a few days or so. And eventually we'll be adding, you know, again, endorsers and those who have endorsed this campaign to some of the other propaganda that you'll see. Just want to say that on September 11th, which is a few weeks from now on a Monday, we will be having a meeting where all this information about November 4th will be put out to the world. So we want to encourage people to save that date. But for now, if you go to handsoffuhuru.org/outreach, or you go straight to the homepage and you'll see right there, there is a button that says outreach. Perfect. So it's right there. When you click that, it will take you to the outreach page where we have banners, half flyers, posters, talking points, petition sheets, anything that you can find. And at the top of that page, you will find exactly, and then some other posters as well. And at the top of the page, what you'll find is the propaganda for November 4th. So you can download these. If you need help downloading the forms or something, just email us at info@handsoffuhuru.org. Our chat moderators can put that information in the chat, but handsoffuhuru.org/outreach. Right now, if you are watching, put in the chat that I will be there on November 4th, that I will be marching there. I will be sending a contingent. We want the people to start to make it known and let the state know that this is going to be a march led by everybody who they have denied, everybody who they have attacked, coming under one banner to say, drop the charges, to say, hands off the people and all power to the people. So comrades, go ahead and put that in the chat. And also, more than just downloading flyers and distributing the flyers, we're calling on people to also prepare to sign up for committees. So our chat moderators will be able to put in the chat also where you can register for this. But if you go to, there you go. If you go to handsoffuhuru.org on the homepage and you scroll down, you will see that all out for November 4th. If you click that button to register, when you fill out this form, there's a section that says questions and comments. Let us know if you want to participate and sign up for the social media committee, for the media committee, you know, to help out with the program, to help out with outreach, with logistics. We are preparing for a mobilization, you know, that is growing from what it has been in the past under the leadership of the Black is Back coalition. And for their 15th annual march, we want all hands on deck. And so we want people to let us know if you're interested in joining a committee. So when you click the registration link, you will be able to see more information about that and let us know which committee that you want to join. If you want to come by bus, you want to come by horse, you want to come by foot, you let us know, and we will make sure that we make it a united effort to get all the people on the ground. So I haven't had a chance to see the chat, but okay, and I see it coming in. So I see Penny will, this is on Zoom only. I can't see everyone, but I know Penny will be on there on November 4th. Lisa will be there, Brendan will be there, and I know there was others earlier when I made that call, and I will be there as well. So comrades, continue to let us know that you'll be there on November 4th and ready for the big launch. With all the information to easily find this information. You can also go to the blackisbackcoalition.org, and on their website, you will see the 15th annual march on the White House, and you can click that and follow the same process to sign up right now. So I am going to move right into announcements because we are pushing up on time and we want to get everybody out of here, and appreciate everyone for staying on. So just a few announcements, everyone. We want to again invite you to join the counteroffensive of the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa. This campaign is calling on the people to do all the things that we've talked about in this meeting: signing the petition, holding fundraisers, signing the emergency response pledge, bringing speakers to your community, which we'll also be talking about a little more. We want to invite the people to go to handsoffuhuru.org for all your questions. This is where you can sign up for our newsletter. This is can be found on the homepage, as well as signing up for the emergency response pledge. Again, we just heard about the chairman's remarkable reprint of The Verdict Is In, Reparations Now. If you don't have a copy of this book and you saw this as one of the give backs, get a copy of this book. Go to theburningspear.store to get your copy of the Verdict Is In, Reparations Now. And part of this counteroffensive is we want to keep the people informed. Go to handsoffuhuru.org/motion to dismiss. And this is where you will see the motion that was dismissed, the government's response, and the people's response, the Uhuru 3 who replied back, and you get a chance to read and just see these really important political documents coming from the leadership of the African working class and our legal representation. On Wednesday, August 30th, we want to invite people to tune in for America's Forever War. This is a webinar hosted by the African People's Solidarity Committee. This web event will expose the FBI's history and current practice of attacking the freedom struggles of African and Indigenous people, and it will also address how white people can take a stand against FBI attacks to be a part of building white solidarity with Black power under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party. So you can do this by registering at tinyurl.com/FBI war. And again, on September 11th, part of this meeting, you will also, if you are part of the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition, you will be a part of this meeting already. And we want to invite anybody who is part of the coalition and remind our coalition members that on September 11th, we have a meeting as well. You can do this by going to handsoffuhuru.org/coalition for more information and to learn about the coalition. And we want to remind everybody that Uhuru Tours and Speakers Bureau is touring the chairman, bringing this fight back on the ground to a city near you. So email info@uhurutours.org info@uhurutours.com if you would like to bring the chairman or other party speakers and leaders to your community or to your campus. So that is the end of our announcements, and I want to turn it over to the chairman and anybody who would like to say any remaining, last words for the remainder of this program. Before I close, I want to again really salute and appreciate comrades Jennifer Jones, Paulette Dautier. We want to appreciate the People's Alderman Jesse Todd, and as well as my co-hosts Lisa Davis and Penny Hess. So thank you, comrades, and please use this time if you have anything that you'd like to share. And before I turn it over to you, Chairman, to take us home and forward to November 4th. Kick the ass of the ruling class, and here we go. So Uhuru, Chairman.
Uhuru, thank you very much, Comrade Mwezi. I want to again express appreciation to you for the incredible work that you do leading this Hands Off Uhuru committee. And I want to unite with you in calling out Comrades Jennifer and Paulette from the Leonard Peltier, ad hoc Leonard Peltier Defense Committee. It's an extraordinary development that has brought us back into contact with the Leonard Peltier struggle for liberation and offered us an opportunity again for concrete concretization of the relationship between Africans and the indigenous people. So thank you so much for that. And I want to really express appreciation to all of you who are participating in this meeting, everybody who's made contributions here and who have committed, and all of the people who committed, some of whom are not here in terms of organization and personalities, for promoting and participating in the November 4th anti-colonial free speech mobilization that's going to be happening in Washington, D.C. A march on the White House is a very important, very historic thing. And I don't think anything like this has ever happened in history inside this country before, where you saw the anti-colonial movement actually having succeeded in uniting people across various nationalities and political and ideological, the ideological spectrum in this kind of mobilization. So I want to recognize that. I want to recognize Comrade Jesse Todd for the work that he's done in promoting and actually building for the Sanctuary City Resolution, and to acknowledge that within the next several days, we should be seeing something similar happening in New York City, where City Councilman Charles Barron is going to also be introducing this Sanctuary City Resolution there in New York. I just want to remind people that the United States government intends to put me in prison, give me a life sentence. They said in part because they said the Russians paid me to initiate some kind of process, a program, or a work to win people to take the United States before the United Nations for violation of the United Nations Convention on the prevention, a crime of prevention, on the prevention and what is the crime of genocide. And I just want to remind everybody just the depth of this colonial question, because the term genocide did not exist when they were killing the indigenous people here. There was no such thing called genocide. There's no such thing as called genocide when they were dragging us across the Atlantic, and when they were killing us in the slave dungeons on African continent itself. There was no such thing as genocide. There was no such thing as genocide in 1848 when they did the Treaty of Hidalgo after having stolen half of Mexico. There was no such thing as genocide with the so-called Louisiana Purchase, where the United States government purchased about a third of this country, and the indigenous people live in what was characterized as Louisiana territory that includes St. Louis, where we are now. The term genocide is something that came about when the contradictions that really represent what this social system is about, when the colonial contradictions began to intrude to some extent, when what was characterized as the hidden dictatorship of the bourgeoisie became less hidden in terms of how it affected white people, the colonizers. And this is where you see the question of genocide comes about in 1948. Before then, it didn't even exist as a concept. And even after it was put forth, African people went in 1951 to the United Nations of 52 to try to take the United States with recharge genocide campaign program, petitions, etc. And even the person who was the author of the Genocide Convention said it didn't have anything to do with Black people. And the fact is that the United States went for more than 40 years before it would even ratify the Genocide Convention. And this was because, and it's stated in different documents, of an assumption that the indigenous people and African people would take the United States before the United Nations in charge with genocide. And this is during a time similar to this time when the United States was contending with forces in Russia and China and various other places in terms of which is going to be the best system in the world. And the United States had to compete on an international level to try to win people to this colonial domination of the rest of the world. This is what we're looking at. The colonial question is profound, and it intrudes in every aspect of our lives. the Africans and indigenous people in this country live in a state of permanent fear, permanent terror, permanent violence, and things like this. This is a splendid opportunity for everybody to unite with the struggle for Africans and for colonized people to be free, to have the right of free speech, to pursue freedom, to pursue our aspirations to be a free people, and in the process of doing that, defend the right of freedom of speech, freedom of assembly for everybody who is in this country. So I want to thank you for coming on to this and for all the contributions you've made. I hope you will continue to make contributions this evening so that we can raise the goal that we had established for ourselves of $2,000. And again, thank you very much. And the fact is, we are going to kick the ass of the ruling class, that we want to say all power to the people, all power to the people, and Black power to the African nation. Uhuru, we are winning. Uhuru.
We are winning, Chairman. We are winning, and I want to appreciate, yes, Uhuru, and just want to give our final total. We have raised $1,355 towards our $2,000 goal. So I really want to salute the people and just appreciate you, Chairman, for taking us home. So continue to donate, continue to put the word out there. We'll see you on November 4th, and we'll see you in the process of building. So Uhuru, comrades, we are winning. Uhuru.
We are winning. Behalf of the ruling class. Yes.
Take me out to the ruling class.
Yeah.
Uhuru.